All right, guys. What's up, traders, investors, humans, people in the markets? Is the dog going to watch me this way the whole time? We're going to get into more discussion and deeper understanding of trading addiction. Trading addiction is something that has negatively affected me in my trading journey in my life. And I've realized it negatively affects most traders, but on a spectrum. And it's not a matter of the ends justify the means. Oh, I made so much money, therefore it's justified, right? There's two games in the markets. There's the battle with the market and the battle with yourself. It's possible to win the battle with the market and to lose the battle with yourself. An example is from a trading mentor I had, who I remember him making comments like, I want to go to sleep. I'm waiting for Bitcoin to let me sleep. You know, it's like he has alarms set that go off in the middle of the night to wake him up to take trades on any given night. Always sick. Doesn't know why. Or the trader who made $2 million this year and is like, wasn't worth it. And people don't understand. Well, it's also just the average guy who doesn't have a problem, but first thing in the morning checks his stock portfolio and it affects his whole day, the mood of it, and checks it throughout the day. This is a low-level addiction. So it's from low-level addiction to high-level addiction, and it even affects investors, not just traders. But for traders, it can be a huge obstacle to making money in the markets. And it's one of the reasons why. There's a question why. Okay, studies suggest there's an inverse relationship between time in the markets, or time spent on trading activities, and how much money you make, right? And a reason is when you're disordered and you're addicted, you're spending a lot of time, and that's going to lead to not making money, which is counterintuitive, but it's true. So it's important to understand these things. I had to go through it to really understand it, and I'm still trying to understand it better. But for some of you, you're going to have to go through it. But I hope I can save some of you. Okay, I hope that I can save some of you. Now, what's sparked this video is this book right here. It's called Blue Mind, and I flipped to this chapter today. And before we get into it, I mean, I'm just reflecting on disrupted sleep, dysregulated mood, loss of interest in other activities, the scrolling, you know, the switching between charts on the phone on the 1 minute. I don't know how many of y'all get into this, but when I'm like in my most addicted state, I'm like, I've got the chart up and I'm in a bunch of positions and I'm just going between the positions on the 1 minute. And I'm doing this for hours. Maybe some of y'all can relate to that. And it's like time to sleep and I'm doing it. So this is about water healing addictions. Quote, Van originally realized the transformative power of surfing when it helped him to overcome his addiction to drugs and alcohol. And he's not alone. Jamal Yogis tells the story of Jamie Patrick, who kicked a cocaine habit cold turkey when he discovered triathlons and ultra swimming. Today, programs like the one run by pro surfer and recovering addict Daryl Verostko in Central California and Surfing to Recovery in Southern California use outdoor activities to help replace the high of drugs with the endorphins of exercise. Replace the high of drugs with the endorphins of exercise. In such cases, healing in the water actually comes from replacing the rush produced by addiction and other at-risk behaviors with the more natural dopamine high produced by surfing, whitewater kayaking, sailing, or competitive paddleboard racing. I'm going to hold it so you guys can see what I'm reading. The goal of surf therapy is not to teach people to be surfers, says Mental Health Commissioner Brian Flores. It's to get them to use surfing to change their brain chemistry. You stand on the beach and get amped up and all kinds of chemicals rush through the brain. Different ones are in play when you're paddling out or have a monster wave chasing you at the beach. All of those chemicals can have incredible effects on how people cope with depression, anxiety, stress, and other mental health issues. According to neurobiology studies, addiction is a reward prioritization problem. Addiction is a reward prioritization problem. We're really going to understand it a bit better. That involves long-term neuroplastic changes in the brain. Addiction is where people start exploiting just one mechanism of reward to the exclusion of other possibilities. We're going to come back to this. Drug-related rewards cause direct changes in the same system that makes us seek more natural rewards like food or sex, and make us more and more exclusively linked towards the addictive drug. Again and again, we've seen evidence that addiction involves disordered dopamine systems concerned with reward and motivation. These alterations draw addicts strongly and selectively to the reward of the drug and overwhelm any sense of risk or consequences. Overwhelm any sense of risk. Howard Fields calls this an inflated value signal. Dopamine neurons in the nucleus accumbens, the pleasure center of the brain, are activated by certain action outcomes such as the use of an illicit drug and the inflated value of the drug. Consequently, in future decisions, actions leading to drug use are selected at the expense of all other activities. As we have seen, neurobiology is not destiny, and a brain that is changed in one way has the potential to change in another. To change an addictive behavior, the person has to be able to identify a stronger alternative reward to overcome the compulsion to seek or engage in the addictive behavior. Surfing and other sports provide alternative rewards by satisfying the brain's desire for stimulation, novelty, and a neurochemical rush, while also getting addicts out of their typical environments, a critical aspect of most recovery programs, and providing new settings, new friends, and new routines that are as fulfilling but more positive. Positive addictions that result in individuals and or societal gain are thus desirable outcomes, such as an quote, addiction to nature of being outdoors, which stimulates positive feelings in response to immersing oneself in the natural environment. That's enough of reading this. No, the last thing is a case study and it moves on. Okay. So this applies to trading. It says addiction and other at-risk behaviors. So trading and gambling are at-risk behaviors because of variable reward. Variable reward is really powerful, especially when it's over money. You can make or lose a lot in a short period of time. It's super addictive. And I mean, it's not just in the way of life, but it's in the way of, this is something I wanted to get out later. It's like, it gets in the way of long-term holding. Long-term holding is one of the best investing strategies. And the more you check, the more you're addicted to trading the dopamine, the harder it is to long-term hold, right? That's why addicts don't perform well in the markets and have a hard time holding positions, because they're addicted to the dopamine, right? And you can enhance buy and hold. There's ways to do it, or protect more, but systems, the best trading systems resemble buy and hold to some degree. Okay, so we're going to go through this once again, but looking at it from trading addiction, right? So, okay. Addiction is a reward prioritization problem, right? Over prioritizing. So trading addiction can be addiction to trades. It can also be addiction to scrolling on Twitter. It could also be addiction to staring at the charts when you're in trades. Typically, it's having risk on and watching the risk in some way. It's a reward prioritization problem, and they call it an inflated value signal. It makes sense, right? When you realize later on that, like, okay, money does matter, but only to the point that you can make a living. After that, money doesn't do very much for your happiness. And having savings is nice, but the trading gets an inflated value signal, right? How important is growing your savings? It's not that important. I mean, it's important, but it's not everything, right? Basically, yeah, investing and trading, it's just about growing your savings, right? How important is that? It's not that important when you compare it to like your physical health, increasing your actual income, learning new skills, getting good sleep, your social life, and so on. So like something we see with a reward prioritization problem is growing my savings becomes more important than my relationships, my kids, my safety while driving, my job that actually I'm living off of. It's a reward prioritization problem with an inflated value signal, and especially the activity within trading. Say that actually growing your savings is the most important thing. Well, staring at the charts within that isn't very important, right? The chart, putting on trades and staring at the charts gets an inflated value signal, right? It's a reward prioritization problem where suddenly you're getting dopamine reward for something that, one, isn't that important, growing your savings, and two, isn't that effective at it, which is the trading activity. And some of y'all say, well, no, trade for income. Trading for income, few can do. It's not very effective. It's possible, but because of compounding, typically the best investors are able to add to the fund rather than withdraw from the fund. So if you're coming in with the idea that I'm going to have consistent income, it's just not setting you up to succeed. It's not realistic, really. Addiction is where people start exploiting just one mechanism of reward to the exclusion of other possibilities. So I'm getting this dopamine reward from putting on risk and staring at the charts and refreshing the charts and picking up my phone and checking the Bitcoin price, check the Bitcoin price, check the Bitcoin price, to the exclusion of other possibilities. So it becomes a problem when, okay, now I'm no longer doing XYZ, other things that make me feel good, right? They cause direct changes in the system, right? Addiction involves disordered dopamine systems concerned with reward and motivation, right? So this dopamine loop of like put on a trade, the emotional, we talk about the psychology of trading, over trading, where anxiety, fear, greed, euphoria, and all this, but we could talk about the brain chemistry too, where it's a disordered dopamine, where now like I get so much dopamine from these high risk swings on the short term that aren't conducive to making money and also are just highly distracting to life and disruptive to life, right? It also says that the brain chemistry overwhelms any sense of risk or consequences. So something that happens as well is one of the reasons why you over risk is in the addicts to over risk, especially in the sense of euphoria and putting on the trade initially. Fear comes in for protection sometimes in time later, but part of the sense of risk as well is like, what if me giving this an inflated value signal and prioritizing this above everything else, what are the consequences long term to my health, to my relationships, to my job, my work, and so on, right? Actions leading to drug use are selected at the expense of all other activities, right? So it gets prioritized. I think back to, I was addicted to coffee for 10 years and also to weed, right? So the mornings always led to getting coffee. Like if I'm traveling, the mornings are always leading to going to a coffee shop or something like that. Is it very destructive? It wasn't very destructive, but it was a coffee had an inflated value signal, and it was a reward prioritization problem where there's any other thing I could have done other than I need to get coffee. And same thing with weed. Like if I'm traveling or I'm in a new place, it leads to me like in the park talking to random locals, like trying to buy weed, and then getting high and like everything else that I could do, and it leads to the addiction. You don't find yourself in the situation, you create the situation. So what's tough about trading is you think, well, I thought like, man, my life's stressful, I need to remove stress so I can focus on trading, set up my life so I can trade the right hours, and I set it up at the expense of all other activities. Now I'm working part-time on the farm now I'm not working at all. Now I'm only trading, right? The expense of all other activities. Now my sleep's disordered. I'm not lifting weights in the morning. I'm not taking care of myself in whatever way. Like I didn't even get out and surf because everything is leading towards me feeding the trading addiction, right? So how do we fix it? It's not destiny. And this is what I've been telling you guys. I've been in addiction and worked in addiction for a long time. My dad was an alcoholic, and as a family, we went to 12-step meetings starting in middle school and high school. So, and later I came back. I've been around 12-step meetings. I've learned a good amount about addiction, and in 2020, in 2021, I did a lot of addiction counseling, coaching for the other channel. And what it says here, this is what I found to be true. It says, the person has to be able to identify a stronger alternative reward. Stronger alternative reward. So it might not actually be as strong, but it might be more sustainable. But if you have nothing going on in your life, you're not just going to quit heroin, right? Or if your life's super fucking boring and there's nothing going on, you're not going to kill your trading addiction. So for me, well, first of all is awareness. I wasn't aware until this year that it's like I have a trading addiction. I thought that this is normal. It's the cost of trading. Either you win or you lose. It's just emotional problems I'm dealing with, like, or focus on the markets and not myself. And then I realized, like, okay, awareness. I'm engaging in unhealthy behaviors. Win or lose, this isn't healthy, right? So what has helped me immensely was once I realized this and going back to work, but in more interesting industry, which is adventure tourism, getting the job doing the hiking tour, or creating the business doing the hiking tours, and getting the job doing the marine wildlife tours, where I might be in the water with a shark at work. I've been in the water with whale shark, Galapagos shark, white-tipped reef shark. I've seen plenty tiger sharks from the boat. It's exciting. And this has helped me kick the trading addiction. It's not enough like to just quit if you have nothing else going on. It's boring. I've chosen to prioritize my music, which you see with the singing. Go back to YouTube and also Instagram. The truth is, I'm probably not spending less time refreshing on the phone, but that has been the priority has shifted towards responding to YouTube comments, Instagram, and Discord messages. So I'm still pretty active, but it's things that are a little bit either more pro-social or won't ruin me. But so like I'm doing more things off the phone, but then I have more interesting things on the phone. So this guy talks about, okay, we'll go to the last bit before we close up. This guy, okay, he's been in and out of rehab for more than a dozen years, had his first drink at age 13. Age 40, realized that it was time to do something. I'm addicted to anything and everything that makes me feel good/bad, and I'm tired of it, he wrote in his journal. I've never quit or accomplished anything in my life of true merit, so today I start training for the Great Catalina to Manhattan Beach paddleboard race. I've been on a paddleboard once or twice, but I figure I need to trade one addiction for another. For almost a year, Kevin trained with a friend, paddling for hours in the ocean 4 days a week. He used Alcoholics Anonymous, his new addiction to paddleboarding, and the creative act of writing music about his journey as the means of his recovery. On August 28, 2011, the day he completed the Catalina Classic paddleboard race, Kevin wrote, "Doing inspiring and healthy things has a curious way of spreading. I've never felt quite so alive and competent as a man and a human being." Kevin has maintained his drug-free life while his wife has battled cancer, and he has become a fine therapist and an inspiration to others. All because, as he says, he chose to return to the ocean, a place that has brought me immeasurable joy. Addiction is a complicated illness, and it would be irresponsible to claim that going blue-mined is an inescapable means to purity. But for an increasing number of those struggling with the most merciless of addictions, the curative effects of water are impossible to deny. And if water can make such a difference in combating their ferocious demons, what might it do for you? Yeah. So I hope you find it useful. I mean, my trading system is useful. So you can follow a link to that below. But if you want psychological help, if you feel you're dealing with addiction, you can message me, comment down below or something like that, and we can check it out, okay? Appreciate y'all. Much love. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.